Muscat.
I know you. I danced with you once upon a dream, said Princess Aurora, Disney's beloved Sleeping Beauty. I'm here today to tell you the truth behind a tale as old as time, the true story of Disney's magical sleeping princess and her never-ending dream. For all we know, the real Aurora may have had Klein-Levin syndrome with excessive tiredness and hypersomnia, trypanosomiasis, sleeping sickness, or could have also indeed been the case of scolding apnea, if not the magical doings of this villain here. However, we choose to live, divorced from reality, involuntary suspension of disbelief, and not cause kids grief by altering the magical motif. So a bit more about scolding apnea, which means you remain asleep and cannot breathe for a prolonged period of time after being given specific anesthetic, and you cannot wake up. Succinyl-dicolin-induced prolonged sleep, succinylmetonium anesthesia, slumber is deep. Muscle relaxation, customarily short-acting, usually hydrolysis by cholinesterase enacting, typically by a catalyst metabolized quite quickly, unlike Sleeping Beauty princesses, so sickly, paralyzed, and unable to breathe or stare, fancifully divorced from reality, a blur. Genetic allelic cholinesterase changes in place, some valiant prince to kiss this pretty face, or mechanical ventilation in intensive care, chaste fondness of a more effective kind, not the fairy tale concept much enshrined, Dibuque number to be determined quite soon, delayed awakening from a cozy cocoon of magic, unthinking, and fond illusion, captive of this visionary dream profusion. Sleeping Beauties, eternally broken slumber, by one untainted Elysian kiss, I wonder, on roseate lips, then the repose doth end, roused uplifting eyes do contend, a truth, part imagined, part seen, awakening slowly from this dream. Pensive shadows, vestige perished now, silent spectacles to unerring reality allow.
Well, first of all, Michelle, thank you very much for a very different presentation, I must say. I'm not sure if this is the sort of fairy tale that has them living happily ever after, but what is sleep?
Sleep. So sleep is a very interesting phenomenon where there is REM sleep, there is rapid eye movement, and the person, when they are asleep, they are able to relax and they are able to survive. If an individual is sleep deprived for a very long period of time, they will actually die.
Why?
Because it's when during that bodily physiological process one rests, one has got time to regain homeostasis, the homeostatic process in the body. Sleep is necessary within a certain amount. However, an excessive amount of sleep can, in certain instances, depending on which condition you may have, for example, there is sleep apnea, which is different from scolding apnea, where sleep would be disturbed. There would be obstruction in the sleep, and the patients, many of these we have seen in our local hospitals, who would be possibly slightly more obese, and they would require CPAP in order to breathe better. But that would be disturbed sleep. That would lead to daytime hypersomnolence because they wouldn't have had a proper night's sleep. The REM sleep would have been disturbed. Whereas then there are other conditions, for example, I mentioned trypanosomiasis, which is less likely so that Sleeping Beauty had that, because apart from just excessive daytime somnolence, she would also have had other things like enlarged spleen, enlarged liver, hepatosplenomegaly, enlarged lymph nodes, lymphadenopathy, and a number of other quite nasty complications. So most likely the beautiful sleeping princess did not have one of those. Then there are other things such as narcolepsy and cataplexy, where one just drops dead asleep while you're doing something. And locally we had a case where someone was driving and dropped dead to sleep. And cataplexy is even worse when you receive strong emotional stimulus. For example, you could be eating, you could be laughing. Someone during intercourse, they just dropped dead and fell asleep. So,
Okay.
so yes, sleep.
That explains it.
Explains what?
So there are a number of conditions that can affect sleep. It's required in moderate quantities.
Thank you very much. I also note that, just like me, you use many polysyllabic words. We scientists are all the same. Thank you so much. Very interesting.
Thank you.
My question regards exercise and sleep.
Exercise,
It's a well-known fact that with some exercise, one tends to sleep better. What's the relationship between the two?
When one exercises, in general, one is in turn, they're using their physiological mechanisms, and one can go swimming, one can go running, one can take part in a marathon, and there would be a release of certain chemicals within the body. One would tend to be more fit. They would also sleep better because they would get a little bit more tired. And apart from getting a slightly little bit more tired, rather than just doing a useless activity such as worrying, stressing out, and in turn, yes, metabolizing and breaking down catabolism because of stress, the exercise is a beneficial activity because it would allow the sleep to be better and to be more restful, and hence it's highly recommended that people engage in exercise, in yoga or whichever other activity relaxes oneself, so that one has a more fulfilled life where one engages productively during the day, one expends one energy into fruitful, fulfilling activities, and subsequently one has a restful, good night's sleep with very good REM sleep and hopefully sweet dreams.
One last question. Is it well understood what triggers these conditions?
In scoline apnea, yes, you would have a genetic defect, and that's what we test for in the lab. We test for the DBK number, we can also do a fluoride number. For example, when I worked as a junior doctor in surgery, at the time when I was prepping the patients for surgery, I would always ask them, as part of the anesthetic history, if they had anyone in the family who had an adverse reaction to an anesthetic. Saxametonium can be used, this anesthetic, as an induction agent. However, if someone had an adverse effect, not necessarily to this, but to any other anesthetic, one would not use it. If someone in the family had an adverse effect to saxametonium, then one would test the relatives for this particular one would test, before we go to the genetic testing, which can also be done, one would first test for the activity of acetylcholinesterase. And then one would type it in general, because there are a number of variants. If one is found to have one of these, then one can go on further to genetic testing. So for scoline apnea, it is quite understood. Then there are the others that would vary from case to case, but this would be the case for scoline apnea. The laboratory investigation would entail that, the blood sample basically.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very, very much, Michelle.